Welcome, everyone, to the Divinity podcast, episode 29. Today we've got some more news from Season 5 for you guys, a couple of stuff that's been brought up in the last week, and that we're going to talk about this week, obviously, this day, this podcast. My name is the Robbie Dog, and I'm here with Sabo, as always, and yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. But first, Sabo, I did I found some random facts that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Let me look them up real quick. Okay. So one thing I was interested in. Did you know that there are dentists for animals?
Yep, I knew that already.
Because I did not. It's just a thought I had. Then I looked some stuff up. Okay. So apparently,
how does this have anything to do with the Smite Pro League?
It doesn't. It's just a fact I want to bring up real quick. Apparently, there's 162 of them in the US.
What? Doggy dentist?
Yeah, just animal dentists. So, that's a fact that you now know.
I knew there were dentists for dogs. I didn't know there was only 162 of them.
Yeah,
dentists for pets. My bad, not dogs. Pets. Dogs are pets, but
doesn't even have to be pets, right? It could also be like cows. I guess they do cows as well.
They've got a couple TV shows over here on like HGTV or Discovery Channel or whatever. I don't watch these shows, but like animal doctors and dog whisperers and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, but yeah. Back to the important thing. Why we're here.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. Also, did you know that there are 89,700,000 dogs in the US? It's also a fact. Anyway,
yeah, I've got many.
Yeah. Moving on to the actual stuff that's important here. Sorry about that. So the first, or the probably biggest talking point that was announced last week was that the Smite Pro League and the Smite Console Series, which is basically the console Smite Pro League, will be broadcasted exclusively on Mixer in Season 5. And if you don't know what Mixer is, it is a streaming platform, who would have thought, owned and operated by Microsoft. So yeah.
I like the fact that it's owned and operated by Microsoft. That's a big one. I'm not sure who Twitch is operated by.
Amazon.
Okay, well, upgraded already. Microsoft over Amazon. But enough shade at that. I mean, we've both expressed in the past, maybe not on on the podcast, but we've talked to each other about it in the past, how much Twitch actually sucks.
Yeah, Twitch has some issues that I don't really get on other platforms, right? Specifically, the platform it's probably compared most to it's gotta be YouTube, right? Even though it's not, the main focus isn't necessarily the same thing, right? On Twitch, it's more streaming, and on YouTube, it's more watching videos on demand.
Yeah, video content, not streaming content.
Yeah, but as far as the player is concerned, right, there are many things that the YouTube player does better. Generally, it runs a bit better on my machine at least, and on yours as well, from what I understand.
That is true. Do you need me to elaborate?
No, that's that was just one thing that I think we noticed. And I'm not sure if you've tried Mixer yet. Have you?
I have not tried Mixer yet. I didn't even know it was a thing until this announcement. But I'm very happy that it's moving away from Twitch. Twitch kind of got the upper, top of the mind when you think of streaming platforms because they were one of the first. But that also means that, if you're one of the first, the others that come after you are going to see what you did wrong and do it better. And Twitch hasn't really improved as much as they should over the years. So going to Mixer, it's Microsoft over Amazon. That's going to be great. I wonder, though, if HiRez is going to take any action or any part in, Facebook gaming when streaming on Facebook becomes a thing, because they have announced that already.
Well,
we don't know when it's going to happen, but Facebook is going to start streaming gamers and stuff.
So I have some news for you about that, by the way. Because remember how last week we talked about ESL? Or was that 2 weeks ago?
It was 2 weeks ago.
They signed an exclusive deal with Facebook to broadcast most of their tournaments on Facebook. So Facebook streaming is indeed already a thing, and tournaments have already been streamed using Facebook.
But is it just the bigger, the ESL and the gaming pro leagues, not like individual streamers yet?
I'm pretty sure individual streamers are already also on there. I just don't know of any specific ones. But I've heard about streamers being offered exclusive contracts with Facebook, etc. Right, so even they're basically being bought to stream there, being hired for that purpose. And basically the same things happened with ESL, and now it seems that Mixer or Microsoft have just done the same thing with the SPL and the other HiRez content.
Now, it's the Paladins Pro League, the Paladins Console League, and then the Smite Pro League and Smite Console League, right? I mean, the minor leagues, is it still going to be streamed on Twitch, or are they moving to Mixer as well?
I'm not sure if it's even including Paladins, to be honest.
I saw something on Reddit a couple of nights ago that Paladins was going to be streaming on Mixer as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, that's Reddit. Take it for what it is, but
yeah. But I've not heard anything about the minor leagues being there as well. In the announcement that they officially put out, it said it was only talking about the Pro League, the Smite Pro League, and the Smite Console Series. So I'm guessing the minor league won't be on Mixer. And yeah.
Well,
one thing this already also kind of solves, that now that I'm thinking about it, is we were talking about how there would be an overlap between the international leagues, right, and the NA and the USPL when it came to broadcasting. Now that the NA and the USPL aren't even going to be on Twitch anymore, the Twitch channel is just going to be open and available for broadcasting the international leagues. Just some food for thought as well. But yeah, let's talk about what we think of the move overall, right? We already talked about how we think the streaming service could be a bit better, the player most specifically, and maybe a bit less impact on bandwidth. But have you heard what Mixer is specifically trying to do better than Twitch and other competitors?
Again, my only knowledge of Mixer at this point in time is that they're going to be streaming the Pro League, and it's by Microsoft. I didn't even know it was by Microsoft until you told me a while ago. So, no, to answer your question, no, I have no idea what Mixer is trying to do better than Twitch and other streaming channels.
So, okay, I'm going to tell you some of the stuff that I read about then. Because part of the thing that was announced was, or part of the features that Mixer is supposed to have is that it allows you to stream multiple camera angles at the same time, and you can just then have the user switch between those camera angles, right? So, for instance, in a Smite game, we could obviously have someone spectating from the bird's eye view, right? The isometric view, I guess, and we could have we could just have 10 separate streams spectating the individual player cams. And then you'd be able to switch between them. Wouldn't that be nice?
I mean, that would be nice. I mean, you're talking like if it was the World's Finals, like if we had Rival versus a United, we could watch the spectator UI where we're watching everything, or we can go and watch Deathwalker or go and watch Benji screen as they face off against each other. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's just a feature that Mixer has, is they offer multiple streams, and HiRez are going to implement it in some way. They've already announced that as well. How they're going to be doing it isn't certain yet, right? But it could very well be that we're going to be getting third-person streams for the different players. If not for all of them, then maybe just for the specific most exciting ones within a certain matchup. And yeah, that's one of the things that they could be bringing. Obviously, that is then gonna hurt probably the bandwidth quite a bit. If you're gonna be trying to do that, basically watch 2 streams at once, could be a bit challenging for most internet connections.
Yeah, I can see that too. They are Microsoft though, so they're pretty smart people. They might be able to figure out a way that it doesn't take up too much of the bandwidth that you can do that, or maybe have individual streams for that individual player, that camera.
Yeah, I certainly think that you're gonna be not getting the mainstream when you're not fully focused on it, right? But the question that I have, or the place where I think the biggest challenge is going to be from a technological standpoint, is making the switches between the different views sort of quick, right? Because optimally, it would just be an instant switch. You'd switch to a different stream, it would be right there in the full quality that you want to have it. But in that case, you basically need to already have it pre-streamed in that quality. So that could be challenging. And yeah, I want to see what they're going to be doing with it. And I hope Smite implements it in a good way, that feature.
I just hope that they do a better job than they did on Twitch. Because watching Worlds on Twitch while simultaneously streaming it on YouTube didn't have as many delays as Twitch did. So hopefully Mixer does that better.
Yeah. That's another thing, actually, that Mixer also is supposed to have as a feature, is the streaming delay that you usually get, right? Just naturally by having to broadcast from yourself to the servers, and then from the servers onto the actual towards the actual users, right? That delay is supposed to be much shorter on Mixer than it used to be on Twitch. Because on Twitch, I think the minimum you can get it down to is like 15 seconds. And on Mixer, it's supposed to be near instant, which would be nice as well.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be great, because on Twitch right now, if you're in somebody's stream, like if you're on F.stream or anybody streaming on Twitch or on HiRez TV, you ask them a question, and they're trying to answer the questions as fast as they can, but you're waiting 30 seconds for them to catch up because the stream's 30 seconds behind. That would, having more instant, like in the user created content, not where it's broadcast content like what HiRez is doing, but the individual streamer maybe weekend goes over to Mixer. Maybe you ask him a question about jungling with, I don't know, Aphrodite, and he'll he's almost instant response.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be a feature that has a bit more impact when it comes to talking or communicating with individual streamers, not necessarily for tournaments, but it's still a nice one.
I want to see what they're doing for tournaments, how they do this with tournaments, because from what I read on Reddit, Mixer's home base, I guess what you can say, is in New York City on Fifth Avenue, which Fifth Avenue's pretty important avenue in New York. I think it's like got the Macy's and all that stuff on it. I'm not quite sure. Maybe New York people out there can correct me on this, but yeah, having home operations in New York, maybe we get a tournament there. Maybe they do super regionals there instead of in Atlanta at HiRez's own little thing, or maybe do the spring finals. I mean, the summer finals probably pretty much set on being a DreamHack or another DreamHack foreign, maybe in London or something like that in the future. But yeah, summer finals are usually international lands, and then, or not internet, fuck it, in other countries other than America. That's the summer finals.
Yeah.
But
I expect so as well.
Maybe having a tournament in New York, maybe the I don't know what they're going to call it this year, but maybe the United Invitational.
Yeah, it would make sense, right? I'm not sure if they're going to be working with Mixer that closely, right? Because that's even a more close interaction than what I really expect them to do. Right now, I think they're just going to be using it as a streaming platform. But if they're doing more than that, that would be great. So I feel like one thing we need to talk about as well in regard to this entire Mixer deal is the downsides of the thing, right? Because there are almost certainly going to be certain downsides that we're going to be experiencing. And the big one is probably going to be the viewership.
Yeah, it's a smaller channel than Twitch was. I imagine there will be some viewership lowering of some sort. But then again, as time goes on, the SPL fans will start tuning more into Mixer. I imagine Worlds, when they stream Worlds on Mixer, that'll be a pretty big one. Viewership is going to hurt at the first part of it, but as time goes along, I think viewership will be fine. Even then, you gotta think that they will be putting post game recordings, VODs on YouTube still, where you can go watch them on YouTube and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't see a big hit in viewership like you do. I just say it's going to take time for everybody to switch over or get associated or used to it being on Mixer. But I think it's a good move in the long run. Twitch, like I said, Twitch has some stuff that's wrong with it that they have mostly ignored. And I hope Mixer has done a better job of that.
Yeah, honestly, I think the viewership drop's going to be pretty big. And when I say that, I'm looking at the other example that we have that we already brought up, which is ESL and their switch to Facebook, right? Because in their switch to Facebook, we saw the viewing numbers just dip massively. And obviously, Facebook's a bit more controversial of a platform probably than Mixer is going to be, right? A lot of people have really don't like Facebook, if I can say it. And I don't think the same's necessarily true for Microsoft, right? Microsoft aren't anywhere near as controversial of a company as I'd say Facebook is.
No.
But, yeah. But I think a lot of the people who are just tuning into the SPL because they see that it's on Twitch, right? Because they go to Twitch, look through the games and see, oh, Smite is rank 7 or something. I don't know if we're ever that high anymore. And then just tune into Open Smite and see, oh, HiRez TV 10,000 viewers. Let's look what's going on there. Smite Pro League. Look. Oh, interesting. Right? I think those viewers are just going to be lost, and I'm not sure how many of them there are. I expect that there's quite a lot, and I expect that a lot of people just won't notice that the SPL is not even on anymore on Twitch because it's no longer there, and they won't know that it's on Mixer instead.
Well, I'm sure there'll be something broadcast in game on the homepage about something. It's now exclusively broadcast on Mixer instead of Twitch. People will know that it's on Mixer if they want to go watch it. But what you're talking about is top of the mind marketing, and that's just because Twitch has. When somebody brings up video streaming content, Twitch is usually the first one you think of. Top of the mind marketing. That's what that is called. I think that does itself create a problem with viewership, but I think that's more of a time-based thing. That the real SPL fans, people that watch the SPL religiously, like you and I do, will eventually go to Mixer and not worry about Twitch anymore. Because, yeah.
Yeah, but the question then is how many. What's the percentage of viewership for the SPL that are religious viewers like you and me, right?
I can't imagine it's very big, but again, I think in the long run, maybe they do go back to Twitch. I'm not sure. I hope they don't, because Twitch is garbage. But if it doesn't work out with Mixer, they probably will go back to Twitch. I just don't think that the viewership is going to take that big of a hit, because again, Smite is not a very big game, as you said. That we hardly get over seventh in in terms of viewing for the entire game, the entire streaming community, whether it's HiRez TV or Zapman or whoever you're watching at the time. We don't rank very high on the viewership list on Twitch's front page, but yeah, I don't. Viewership probably not the biggest concern here. I think it's just the concern is how long is Mixer going to be around for. This is Microsoft's initial launch into the streaming services, so we have to see how they handle it. I would imagine, Microsoft is a pretty good company at, innovating and handling other stuff, or handling these whatever endeavors they wish to go into and wish to pursue. But that's still, a lot of these companies fail at that. It's just a trial and error kind of thing. And
Yeah.
Mixer, if Mixer's their first attempt and their first attempt doesn't go very well, they shut down Mixer and maybe revisit streaming in a few years when they get a better handle on things. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's not like Microsoft has just all of their products be a success, right? Just think back to Windows 8, think back to Windows Phone, think back to...
But think back to the Zoom.
Yeah. So it's not guaranteed that Mixer's ever going to get as big as Twitch, or ever going to even be in any way, shape, or form competitive with Twitch. If it does, of course, Smite's going to profit from it being probably one of the first games to be broadcast there mainly. And it depends on how much money that Microsoft's going to invest into it, right, as well. Because buying exclusive broadcasting rights like they have now for Smite is going to cost them quite a lot. And, yeah... It's obviously being done. It's obviously being done because they're trying to bring in the viewers from the Smite scene, right? And trying to get Mixer on the radar a bit more than it is right now.
It's good for HiRez that it is Microsoft, and they have plenty of money to spend. Even if Mixer turns out to be a failed project, that you know, Microsoft's not hurting for cash anytime soon, so I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good for HiRez, even if it doesn't work out quite as well as everybody's hoping it will. That's still a lot of money from a big sponsor like Microsoft, and they can do a lot of things with that amount of money.
Yeah.
It's just, what do we see? Maybe they'll finally update their servers.
I think that's the lowest on their list of priorities, to be honest.
It's been lowest for quite a while.
Yeah. But I think the other reason it's good for HiRez, obviously, is because they were paid for this, right? They got money to go to Mixer exclusively. So basically, the SPL doesn't even need to get viewers now because you were already paid. It's already been financed, basically.
HiRez has made their money already on this.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good deal for HiRez. It's a bad deal for Twitch fans.
The best possible scenario for both Mixer and HiRez in this is if this is a huge success and Smite takes off and viewership on Mixer goes straight up, skyrocketing up, because then you can negotiate deals for more money on HiRez's part. As Mixer's getting that viewership and they're getting the money, and if Smite's a big reason of that, Smite can get more money from Mixer or go somewhere else if they don't want to pay that much.
Yeah.
It's negotiating power. Right now, since we haven't seen an SPL broadcast or anything on Mixer yet, it's both companies are kind of in the what's going to happen state of mind. But if it does turn out to be a huge success, both companies stand to make a lot of money on this.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit more questionable whether it's going to be a huge success for the SPL, right? Because it's been around for quite a lot longer than Mixer necessarily has been. Mixer is kind of a more unknown quantity than the SPL, right? And if it's a good streaming service and buys more good leagues that it's going to be streaming exclusively, then I could definitely see it taking off a bit and becoming a real competitor to Twitch, which I would obviously like to see.
I think it's a fresh start for the SPL right now. We're getting into a season where nobody knows really what's going to happen. There's a whole new format to the season, whole new format to how teams operate within the game, and new streaming platform. Like, this is a completely new pro league right now. The players and the game remains the same, but there's so many question marks right now going into season 5 that a lot of things need to be answered at this point. Still, though, Mixer could be the right place for a fresh start.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so as well. I think there's, like we said, there's a chance there that it does take off, and if so, then Smite's going to profit from it. And yeah, there was one other point I was going to make, but I really can't think of it right now. It slipped my mind. Let me think. It was something simple. Damn it. Oh, yeah. So, if you notice in the announcement, they've announced that the SPL and the console series are going to be broadcast there, right? They didn't mention any of the LAN events that we're going to be having this season. So it could be.
I would imagine that's pretty much a given, because exclusive rights to broadcast means pretty much every time the SPL you're going to see the SPL is going to be on the mixer.
Yeah, but the tournaments, the finals, LAN finals of the SPL aren't the SPL, right? Especially not if they include teams that aren't in the SPL, like the international teams. Which at least the DreamHack that we're probably going to get in the summer is likely to do.
Well, it makes very little sense to stream your entire regular season on Mixer and then for tournament and LAN events to go back to something like Twitch or YouTube.
Well, if
I imagine that's already in the contract that they have to do, LAN finals like DreamHack and Super Regionals on the Mixer channel.
Yeah, I think chances are it is in there. In case it isn't, I could see why you would go to Twitter and to Twitch and YouTube instead for the LAN finals, right? Because then you get the more viewership without breaching your contract, so you get the money and the viewership basically. And the fact that it's not in there makes me a bit skeptic.
Well, we don't know if it's in there or not because contract details have not been released, and nor should they be released.
Yeah. Well, it's not in the announcement, obviously. That's what I mean, right?
All right.
But let me check some more.
I think that's in the contract. The contract details are never released to the public, no matter.
Yeah, I know. We'll see. We'll see when it's time for the spring finals, right? But right now, I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be included. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, is there anything else you want to say about Mixer?
No, I just hope it's successful because Twitch is not a good service, and it's going to be disappointing that it's no longer. I'm no longer able to watch it on YouTube if I want to. But I wonder if Mixer has a phone app.
I imagine they do, but I'm not entirely sure. They might have I'm pretty sure they have a Windows Phone app, considering it's Microsoft.
Nobody has a Windows phone now.
Hey, I have a Windows Phone.
Did you make the right decision, though?
Not really. I mean, it's a good phone. It's a good phone. It just doesn't have any apps.
Having the Mixer app being Windows exclusive. Oh my god, that's gonna suck for so many people.
I hope that's not the case.
I hope it's not the case either. And if it is, I hope HiRez chooses to go back to Twitch within the next month. I'll put up with it. I'll put up with whatever Twitch is as long as I don't have to get one of those crappy Windows phones.
Hey, the phones aren't bad. It's just the apps are bad. Okay, I can't even find a Mixer app on my Windows Phone. So that is pretty weird. Yeah. Okay, moving on. I think there were two other big announcements this week, and they were both announcements of orcs that are going to be in the SPL in Season 5 and their respective rosters. And they're both orcs, again, that were in the list of orcs that was leaked a long time ago now.
Well, SK Gaming was already announced before the leak, so it's the other one, that the Mouse Esports, that was not.
It's called Mousesports.
Mousesports.
Yeah.
Or Moose Esports. But yeah, that was the Moose Esports was in the leaked organizations.
I don't think SK was announced before the leaks.
Yeah, SK was announced before the leaks. SK was like the third or fourth organization that was released by HiRez. Pretty sure it was the first official EU organization that was announced. Was they had that whole mythic rival debacle, and that ended up getting announced first before SK Gaming was. But this is pretty much the announcements of the bottom two EU teams for this year.
Yeah, chances are that's what they're going to be. Yeah, certainly. And to go over the rosters that have been announced for SK, it's basically the Valence Squad roster, except Tings has obviously left the team. So it's going to be Ducky in solo, Fails in jungle, Lobster as captain and mid, Batcha in support, who's making a comeback, which I'm very excited about, by the way, and Funball obviously as their ADC. So what do you think about this roster? What?
Badger.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's good to see a long time player like Badger try to make a comeback. He, correct me if I'm wrong, he spent most of season 4 as a coach for somebody. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I'm also not entirely certain, to be honest. But
he he was originally a part of the SK Gaming when they first made it into the Pro League back in like season 1 and 0. So it's him being with that sponsor again is something fun, I guess you can say. It's mainly comes down to whether or not his attitude issues have been fixed, because that was one of the main reasons why nobody was picking him up as a support. Played on the Leftovers in season 3 after being removed from Fnatic in season 2.
Yeah.
And when the Leftovers were put out of the league, Badger just disappeared and nobody was picking him up. Rumors were that he had attitude issues and he was really toxic to the rest of the team. Hopefully that has been fixed, because I like Funballer, I like Ducky. I've already expressed my issues with Lobster before, but let him do his thing.
Yeah.
But I hope Badger has found a better, more peaceful way of dealing with issues like that.
Yeah, I hope so as well, right? He's never been a bad support on a mechanical level, right? It's always seemed like he was on top of his game in that regard. Attitude issues are really the one reason why you wouldn't have picked him up in the last season or even in season 3. So him being back can be a great thing for SK, right? If they manage to gel well with each other, and assuming that they've been scrimming with this roster for a while now, I think it's to be expected that that's what they will do, right? Otherwise, I don't think they would have stuck with the roster and actually gone into the official season with it, because we've talked about other supports being somewhat available already, right? And I don't think, unless Batcha was the best option that they actually saw for their team specifically, they would have gone for him. So yeah, that's one thing I'm excited for. I'm most excited about this team for Batcha's return. Obviously, the rest of the stuff is stuff that we've already seen, basically.
We got to see the Badger Funballer lane and how that plays out. Funballer, this is, after so many seasons with Trix Tank, this is his second season with as many supports. Like, he's gone through 2 supports. This is going to be his second support in 2 years, where for the first 3 years of his career, he was exclusively with the same support. Things didn't really go well with big man teams. Now he gets a shot at playing with Badger. Hopefully that works out for him. So far, having played ranked, the support and the ADC are in lane for maybe the first 7 or 8 levels, so it's back to being an early game duo lane again instead of the one-on-one that you would normally see in Season 4 and at the end of Season 3. So that relationship and how well they mesh together is really important for the first 10, 11 minutes of the match. I don't really see any issues going later into the match where it becomes 3v3 core in the middle of the game, but that's something we have to watch, because the support role, even though it's not the flashy role getting all the kills and gets the oh my god, he just solved this guy, Badger and the other supports aren't the stars of the teams. They're the rock of the team, and hopefully Badger can be a rock for this team.
Yeah, it's always been sort of a rock for the teams that he was in. I think he's never had any big issues with consistency, maybe all the way back in season 0 and 1, right? That could have been an issue for him, because that's what you really want out of someone who's supposed to be the rock of the team, right? You want him to be consistent and not have many off games. And I don't think that's ever been Badger's issue, and I don't necessarily see it being his issue here either. I still think if you look at this team, the two big issues that they could have, the first is the one we've already talked about just right now, and the other one's obviously got to be Lobster and his sort of a chronic underperformance in mid that has been happening throughout the entirety of Season 4, sort of. Because when you look at the rest of the team, they're looking really quite solid, right? Sabo. Huh. Yeah, at least that's my opinion on it, right? I think Lobster is the one who needs to step up the most if this team wants to keep themselves out of the bottom 2 in the EU SPL this year. Otherwise, it's going to be tough for them to realize that. I think the rest of the team has the capability to be on a top EU team right now. Maybe not Ducky, but the other ones almost certainly. Funballer is one of the best ADCs in EU still. And you have Fails, who's one of the best junglers in EU still, right? Regardless of what people sort of think of him, he's proven that by now, that he has that level of consistency and that he has that capability to do flashy plays that can make him one of the best junglers in EU. And Badger, obviously, mechanically very good. Just maybe not going to be the right fit for the team, like we already said. So Lobster is going to be the one who has in the past always brought a consistent level, still brings a consistent level, but nowadays that level seems to be quite a bit too low for a team with him in it to really compete for a top spot in the EU SPL. What I do think, though, is another thing that bringing someone like him in allows you to do is bringing someone like Badger in, what that allows you to do, or can allow you to do, is to potentially look towards different people for the mid role, right?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Did you reconnect?
Yeah, I finally got reconnected. I didn't get the end of that conversation.
No, what I was going on about, right, is now that you've brought in Badger, I think there's a chance that you can sort of put more of the task of calling within the game, right? Shot calling for the team within the game onto him and move it a bit away from Lobster. And that then allows Lobster to focus more on his individual game, which could improve his overall level, right? Because that's the main thing we've been criticizing about him just last season. Or if it doesn't work out, if Lobster's not able to elevate his level again, and Badger is able to take over the role as the main shot caller of the team, you can look towards a new mid. Even though, obviously, Lobster is still going to be their captain, which would be a bit weird. But we've seen it before. We've seen it, I mean, on energy.
Yeah. This is similar to what we talked about last week with the Rafford going to Obey, getting some of the shot calling responsibilities off of his shoulder. Badger could fill that role, or could help fill that role for SK Gaming and relieve some pressure off of Lobster, and could have a very similar effect where Lobster's game improves because he just gets to focus on playing now instead of doing everything else in the game and getting back to enjoying the game again. And so, yeah, very similar situation to last week, only or similar situation to Obey, only in a opposite effect, whereas this is a new player coming to a new team, getting some relief off of his shoulders. This could be one of the having a experienced support and an experienced shot caller coming to a team that really their captain really needs a shot at just relaxing and playing the game again. Because in the end, we have to remember that this is a game. You have to enjoy it to be able to play it well. And I'm not saying Lobster doesn't enjoy the game. With that amount of pressure on his shoulders, that could cause him to, not take the game as serious because he wants to get away from it all, and it feels, when the game starts feeling like a job, that's when it starts getting hard to play. And when it feels like an actual game again and you start enjoying it, you're going to see your skills and level of consistency go up. If that doesn't happen again, like you said, finding a new mid laner is always an option in the future. The only one that would come to mind is Mr. Stefan at the moment, unless you can somehow coerce Shadow Nightmare out of retirement. But yeah,
just bring back Nulissa.
Yeah, Nulissa's an option.
I mean, there's more options than just Stefan and Shadow Nightmare, right? The question is whether they would be any better than Lobster, really. Because if they're not, then they're not really options you can take. So I just contradicted myself. Isn't that great?
And we changed the SK Gaming name to Animal Kingdom name. So we got a duck, we got a badger, and we got a lobster. All on the same team.
Yeah, so you would really have to replace Fails and Funball.
No, those two are the zookeepers.
Oh. That needs to be like a witty abbreviation for something, right? Just FF.
When you said witty abbreviation, I looked at it like, oh, zookeepers. Oh, zoo actually starts with a Z, not an S.
Yeah, I know, but we need to find some term that can be abbreviated as FF, and that's just gonna be Fails and Fumble.
We'll have to brainstorm over that later.
Yeah, this is highest priority stuff.
Highest priority, yeah. Overall, what do you think of the move?
Well, looking at the move as being minus Pigmentings and plus Badger, I think it's a good move, honestly. I mean, Bacha, I think mechanically has shown more than Tinks really has during his time in the SPL. And if he gets anywhere close to his Season 2 form again, then that SK team's going to be a real tough one to compete with. Or at least he is going to be a real tough support to compete with.
I think this is good, nice symmetry, right? This is symmetry. Badger gets removed from Fnatic for Big Man Teams. Big Man Teams gets removed from SK Gaming for Badger.
Yeah.
The symmetry in it all. So it's ignoring that fact. I think I'm with you. I think this could be a good middle of the pack team. I don't know if I really don't expect them to compete with the top, with the likes of Dignitas or Rival, but this could be a third or fourth place team, depending on how Badger, how the season starts and how Badger, whether Badger's got his attitude fixed and in the right place. I like the members of this team. So if Lobster gets back to his old Season 2 self and Badger can fill that role of the rock on their team, I think this is a good third or fourth place team. Higher than that, they do have a reputation of getting off to a good start at the beginning of a split and then kind of tailing off at the end, becoming worse as the split goes on. If they can avoid that, I think they could finish third or fourth. Second, maybe even if, like I said, they get off, they stay consistent and don't have that letdown in the middle of the season or middle of the split.
Yeah, that's really been their big issue in the last couple of splits. Now, if they can somehow get that fixed, then yeah, they're going to be a real contender. Otherwise, I think I agree with you with the fact that they're probably going to be like a 4th or 5th place team, just because the top of EU is going to be looking about as equally strong as it used to be, right? Because it's basically the same teams, right? You just have Energy and Obey who swap their supports. You have Rival who are going to be keeping the exact same roster, and you're probably going to have Dignitas doing the same thing. And breaking into those top 4, it's going to be pretty tough. The only one that I could see slip up a bit more than the others is Energy, due to them likely changing a lot of stuff about their game plans.
See, that's where we differ from. I think it's most likely going to be Rival because of how they usually play online during the split.
Oh yeah, that as well, of course. Yeah, so those are the two that they could be overtaking, specifically in the online splits, are Rival and Energy, and Rival probably being a bit more in contention for that even than Energy necessarily. But yeah, I think in the previous SPL with the 8 teams, this would have been a clear middle of the pack team. Now I think it's a clear team in the bottom 3 or in the bottom half basically, and they're gonna have to look out for the other roster that's been announced this week as well, which is obviously the Mousesports one,
which is basically Elevate plus Nika and Big Man Teams.
Yeah.
Because we knew the other 2 members of Elevate weren't going to be able to return this year.
Yeah, so one might think now, right? Nika and Big Man Tings, but Elevate already has a support. Well, Tings is not going to be playing support, he's going to be playing mid. So the full roster is going to be Nika in solo, Cherio in jungle, Big Man Tings in mid, weirdly enough, Dardes in support, and Jermaine as their ADC. And Dazer as support, by the way, which is also good.
Dazer?
Dacer, yeah. It's
You
been
mean as coach?
as coach, yeah. Damn it, I'm an idiot. That's what I meant. Yeah, Dacer as coach. Obviously, which is
Well,
good.
this big man Tings playing mid. We had said something about this in one of the previous episodes, but we both thought he might have been trolling. Um, Obviously, he wasn't trolling. He is actually going to be playing mid for Mouse Esports or Mouse Sports, Moose Esports, whatever you want to call it.
It's Mousesports.
Mouse Sports.
Yeah. See, they're from CS:GO. I know how their name is pronounced.
See, I don't watch CS:GO, so I'm not really familiar with their name. But yeah, Big Man Tings is actually going to be playing mid. I think this is still out. The jury is still out on this because we haven't seen Big Man Tings play the mid role before. But we also did see Death Panther play middle until the fall last split, and he came from support as well. Whether they have that kind of success with Big Man Tings, it's still yet to be seen. But if they have the same kind of success with it, I mean, we can't call it a failure, right? I mean, it's obviously it worked out for Death Panther. Maybe it works out for Big Man Tings as well.
Yeah, I think switching from what was Death Panther's role again?
Death Panther was a support for Sanguine.
He was really a support.
Yeah, that's why everybody made such a fuss about his numbers and how he died a lot and also picked up a lot of assists and with very few kills. People forget that he was actually played support for the first third of last season.
Oh yeah, huh. I already forgot about that, to be honest. But yeah, so Elevates, or well, I guess Mouse now is just putting supports in mid. I guess that's their deal. When did he play support? In the spring, yeah.
Yeah, Cherio was on that Sanguine team that Death Panther was the support for.
Ooh. Huh. I'm just confused by that right now, to be honest. But yeah. That's apparently what they do now. At least he had a split between switching from the support on the bottom tier SPL team to getting on a mid tier SPL team, right, as a mid laner. But now it looks like Tings is trying to do the same without a split in the middle.
Let me ask you this. Nika in solo lane, he spent a little bit of time in the ADC role, right?
Yeah, he's been in pretty much every role as well, I think.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing? The potential for strategies that this team has? Forget putting the Guardian or Warrior in the solo lane. Put him in the mid lane and have Nika play a hunter, and you can do 3 supports and 2 hunters like you've always done.
Or you can just turn Big Man into an actual big man by letting him play Sean Kui in mid instead of support, which was silly anyway, and then having double hunters on the side. It's brilliant.
Somehow they have found them a way of keeping that double hunter triple guardian comp. You gotta give it to people. You gotta give it to this team. I mean, they're pretty ingenious.
Yeah. But couldn't you have just switched Death Panther to solo and then brought in Tings for mid?
Why not just put Tings in solo and Nika in mid?
I don't know. that's not gonna work anymore because Hunter's not mid now, I guess. More solo farm in solo, easy. Just let them farm there the entire time. Then come to late game and two-shot everyone with Rage and Deathbringer and a 4th crit item. Which one's meta now?
Malice or Wind Demon.
Okay, good. So just let him do that.
Crit's not going to be meta right now. Not until they fix Spectral Armor. That ignores 50% of all crits.
Yeah, I guess. Then just get chin size. I don't know.
I think the Hunter and solo is an option, but from what I can tell, they have a hard time early against warriors, and so Mouse would really be, if they chose to go that way, they would really be choosing to fight in the really late game when it kind of evens out and it actually goes in the Hunter's favor. But for the first 15, 20 minutes, the other solo laner, the solo laner that picked the warrior, is going to absolutely own that lane because Hunters just struggle early against warriors clear.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they're actually going to be doing that, obviously. Right? I think Things is just actually trying to turn himself into a mid laner.
We're a podcast. We have to do this what if scenario stuff, okay?
Yeah.
It's our job.
Yeah, so if they run double Hunter, it's either going to work or it isn't going to work. That's my insight into it.
Yeah, thank you, Captain Obvious. It's either going to work or it's not going to work. I'm saying, just looking at the roster, we've got 3 former supports, or 3 players that at one point in their career played supports, and then we got 2 players that at one point in their career played the ADC. Don't forget, Cherio used to be a support as well.
See, at some point, it doesn't count, right? So what's Cherio's track record for playing support?
Not very good, but he still played support.
I mean, so if I'm looking at this right, he played with Sanguine in relegations in the summer where they got relegated.
Yep.
I mean, please no.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Please no. But he still has played support, and that's why we see him pick Athena and Ymir and...
No, we see him pick these gods because he's good with them in the jungle specifically, not in support.
We see him pick these gods because he likes Guardians.
Yeah.
And remember, Cherio, in his own words, said that he wanted to play support instead of jungle.
Yeah, and Snoopy hasn't wanted to play ADC for, I think, since season 1. And it still wasn't the only role he was good enough to play at an SPL level. It's the same deal for Cherio, right? He's just a good jungle, but that's it.
I'm just saying, we have 3 supports and 2 hunters.
So triple Guardian, double Hunter, yeah.
That's their makeup, their team makeup reflects their strategies.
Yeah, I still have a hard time seeing Hunter solo is working, like for the reasons you said. I mean, it's always been the case that they struggled against warriors early game.
That's the point. That's why I could see them doing something like that, because again, when they were doing this on Elevate, if they struggled, they didn't struggle as poorly early game as a lot of people might think, but they really, having those triple tanks to soak up all the damage and then the double hunters to do a crap ton of damage in the late game, where I could see this actually working out for them.
Well, I think in this case it's more of a situation where it works like once per game or once per opponent you face, right? Because the way you can make it work is by focusing a lot of jungle pressure on solo, but the way you counter that is by just doing the same thing. And if you have the jungle pressuring solo, giving the hunter a bit more space to breathe right in the early game to get him through that rough spot where he's not able to deal with the warrior at all, you can get him through that, and then at that point in time he can start fighting for himself and your jungler gets freed up again, right? If the other jungler's there as well, that's not gonna work, and it's not gonna work for more than one game, I feel like. Whereas the triple guardian double hunter comp with the hunter in middle, that just works inherently because hunters are similar, or at least during Season 4 were similar in terms of pressure output early game as your average mid laner. The same's not true in the solo lane, right? Warriors clearly produce more pressure than hunters.
Which is why they have to kind of focus on the late game instead of the early game.
Yeah, but we've seen what happens when you focus on the late game and play against a team like United. They just run all over you, specifically when you allow their solo laner to get fed. For example, by putting one of the lowest pressure classes in a lane with him.
But, well, United is a different animal. I mean, nobody in Europe figured out how to stop it for the longest.
Rival did. They just fucked it up. They just screwed it up. But they knew they learned how to deal with it after 2 games, basically. Or 1 game.
I could see them putting a high clear guardian in the mid lane like Ymir, pairing that up with someone like an RDO jungler, and just having that be, your mid jungle combination, and having maybe a safer ADC like a Rom or a Hou Yi in the mid or in the solo lane, and just doing it like that, where yes, they're going to give up a lot of pressure early to a solo lane, but you can kind of deal with it because you have tanky frontliners in both the mid and jungle row, that when it comes down to that point in the match where everybody's fighting 5v5 or doing something important like a Fire Giant or a Gold Fury, or even a what's the new thing called? Not the Portal Demon, but the screw it.
Pyromancer.
Pyromancer, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see it working out good there, where you can't leave either of the ADCs alone, and you got to get through those 3 gigantic frontliners and whatever Dardes plays. And we keep forgetting that Dardes likes to play Nox support, and there's your mage.
Yeah, but it's a mage without a farm. That's terrible. I mean, the Nox support only works because you're running double guardian again. And can you imagine in the mid game when you have that 3v3 fight, you're just gonna have 3 guardians? Can you imagine how silly that would be?
Have you ever played Match of the Day with 5 guardians?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or with 5 Odins.
It's a lot of fun.
5 Odins and 80% CDR.
We're getting too far We're getting too far down the rabbit hole on this one.
Yeah.
We're starting to pass Alice on her way down the rabbit hole. We're getting ahead of Alice. Get back on track.
Yeah, no, but I get what you're saying. They have potential to do it. I still don't see them doing it, or at least I don't see it being successful. Because
I see it working depending on who you have in the mid lane, who Big Man Things chooses to pick up. Because
Mhm.
if it's not a hard, a high clear guardian like a Ymir or a maybe a Kabrakan, I don't think it works with somebody like a Sobek or a Fafnir.
Yeah. I think it
It
might
would.
work against Celia, against Obey. Just because he's not gonna put enough pressure in solo anyway.
Again, you're throwing shade at Zelia, but Zelia's only real issue is when he fights when he faces against Benji.
Yeah, because normally he's better in the late game, but he's not better than a hunter in the late game.
Exactly. Okay, I get your point now.
Yeah.
Again, Zelia is a good solo laner, just not against Benji.
Yeah. I mean, that's good, I guess.
But to be fair to Zelia, a lot of people are not good against Benji.
Yeah. Very few people can deal with Benjis. Just because Benjis are scary. But yeah, I think there's too many high pressure solos still in the EU for a hunter solo to really work, right? Because it's not just Deathwalker, it's also variety.
It's worse if it's Deathwalker because his favorite god is got a auto attack cancel in it.
Yeah. And then you have variety who's just gonna still kill your guardians because he's gonna push them all the way from your side of the map into his entire team, and guardians still don't survive that.
It's going to be a good year for variety, or at least a good spring because tier is really good right now.
Ah, nice.
So yeah, it's back to Mouse though. Final thoughts on the roster as it stands.
Well, there's good parts, and there's unproven parts. I'd say is the most politically correct way to put it. Obviously, Cherio is a proven jungler, right? He's gonna have a lot of different picks he can go to. That's what makes him That's what really makes him a strong jungler, right? His versatility. Then you have Darius and Jermaine, who are, in my opinion, one of the best duo lanes in EU. Right, Jermaine being one of the best hunters, and Darius being one of the best supports.
Arguably one of the best duo lanes in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
I
You
would
can make
I
that
would
argument.
probably put PBM and Panda Cat and Jeff and Barra as the only two that are better than them currently.
Nah, Trix and Arkle, if they stay together, I'd say as well.
Arkle's too inconsistent for me.
Yeah, but he's great in his good games, and I mean
Yeah,
Jermaine's not a symbol of consistency, a beacon of consistency.
I can see your point. Yeah, I understand, but I would still put Jermaine and Dardes ahead of Arkle and Trix.
Yeah, but they're one of the best dual lanes in EU. That's basically the point. The unproven parts of the team are obviously going to be Nika and Big Man Things, right? Nika, he hasn't been on SPL team for quite some time now, and it's a bit questionable whether he's going to find back to that form that he had way back in Season 3, I want to say, where he was the solo laner for a lot more successful Sanguine team. If he does, then he's gonna be like a middle of the pack solo laner in EU again, which would make this team a bit more of a threat again. To what?
Whatever happened to Zashu? I know he got suspended for Season 3 after he was the Cringe Crew solo laner, and then he got suspended for the rest of Season 3.
Well,
what happened to Zashu? Because he was really good.
Yeah, they
and he
didn't
got
take him
suspended
back.
and he didn't come back around.
Yeah, I guess just no one wanted him anymore. I mean, who replaced him again? Was it Ducky?
I think it was.
Yeah, I could still see that being a competitive matchup between the two, to be honest. Don't think Ducky's improved all that much. But yeah,
But Zashu, I would think Zashu would probably be a more impressive pickup than Nika.
yeah, I can see that as well, right? It's though it's even been a bit longer since he's been sort of relevant, right? Wasn't he banned in the middle of season 2?
No, he was banned in the middle of season 3 because Cringe Crew
Season
wasn't
3.
around in season 2.
Yeah,
Cringe Crew
still,
was
yeah.
that. Cringe Crew was that.
London conspiracy team.
Former London conspiracy with
Suntouch.
what's his name on it?
Suntouch.
No, Suntouch. Yeah, but I'm talking about the other guy, the new support for Energy. Emilzy, yeah, Emilzy was on that Cringe Crew team, and
Oh, yeah.
it was a good team until Zashu got suspended, and they kind of, hungry for more, kind of got hot and knocked them out of that third place finish, and the rest is history.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure if Sasha would be up to the task more so than Nika would, right? Nika had a really good end of season 3 with the Sanguine team, right? Where they made it through the groups over Dignitas at the time to get 4th place in EU, I'm pretty sure. To make it to Super Regionals that way.
Yeah, they made it to Super Regionals and they played off against Bay, wasn't it? Or was it Energy?
I'm not
They
entirely
lost.
sure.
They lost in Super Regionals in that first round. I think it was Obey. No, it was Energy because they played Energy very well in that match, even though Energy ended up sweeping 3-0.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so they the big success they had was making it through the groups over Dignitas, which was quite an accomplishment back then. Didn't make it to Worlds, obviously. Then back then only two EU teams made it to Worlds. The two that won the semifinals at Super Regionals, obviously.
Yeah, I think
But
I think the biggest reason why Mika's on this team, other than anybody else, is because him and Cherio were on that Sanguine team at the end of season 3 that made it to Super Regional, and they have that history there, a lot like Cherio had with Death Panther last split. Like they had played together before, and so they already have that relationship there that could help them in game. I could see why Nika is on this team over somebody like Zashu or Confrey. I'd like to see Confrey come back.
oh, please no. I mean, no insult to Confrey, but he wasn't that good, to be honest. But yeah, I think that could definitely play a role in why he's back, Nika. That they were on that same team, and I think another thing that can play a role is that he could potentially just be a better fit than Sashu, right? Because Cherio and Sashu, they've also been on the same team as well, when you look at it. Because they were also both on that London Conspiracy team back in the day. But that's a lot longer ago than the Nika and Cherio team.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do final thoughts on Mouse.
Yeah, like I said, they could be good if both Tings and what's his name? If both
Nika.
Tings and Nika work out. If they settle into their role again, right? Again, in the case of Nika and just in general in the case of Big Man Tings, this could be a good team. This could be a team on about the same level as SK, I feel like. But it really comes down to those two. I think the other three are going to be solid. Cherio's a bit more of a question mark than Dardas and Jermaine even. If those two pop off, right, if they just dominate their side of the map, this can be a good team.
I think it is a good team right now, even though Big Man Tings is still a question mark in the mid lane. It's unfortunate for them that it's only 6 teams this year instead of the 8 teams, or we would be talking about them as a middle team. With it only being 6 teams, we're going with an EU being so stacked as it is. they're going to be a bottom team just because of how good the other teams are. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate situation for them, even though this is a good team on paper. Um, I mean, so basically all there is to it. I see them being a good competitive team. I just don't see them finishing higher than fifth or sixth, which is it's kind of sad because that's just the situation it is now. We don't have 8 teams anymore.
Yeah, I think in general, all the teams that have been put together for the EU SPL so far are some of the best that you could realistically put together, right? I don't think there's any big pieces missing that you would have expected to be in the SPL, but that aren't going to be. And overall, I think it's going to be very competitive between the two, right? I can see this Mouse roster beating Dignitas in a game, taking a game off of Dignitas, for example. And I can see them winning a set over SK. I can see them winning a set over a weak-looking Energy, even. So it's all going to be very competitive. And that's something to look forward to.
You're right. It's you got some of the best players that you could ask for in that made these European teams, and you're right. They could take a game off of Dignitas. They could end up taking the set from SK, or a weak looking Energy team, or maybe even an Obey team that's not playing up to snub right away. But the question is can they continuously do that? And it's going to be difficult. And so for right now, as it stands right now, I see them being a fifth or sixth place team, and not any higher than that.
Yeah, I think that's the most likely result that we're going to be seeing, right? I think everything else would be an upset. And yeah, them and SK are really going to be competing for those bottom 2 spots, I feel like. Unless SK manages to find more consistency, and unless Mouse manages to really bring the best out of Nika and Big Man Things. Otherwise, those should be the bottom 2 USPL teams. And that's considering still that Dignitas hasn't officially announced their roster yet, but we're pretty sure at this point that they're going to be keeping their old one, because why wouldn't they? And because every other roster has already been announced, and if one of the members from Dig were to leave the team or be kicked off of the team, I don't see a world where they're not picked up by one of the other 5.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like if Trixtake ends up getting kicked off Dignitas, Badger is probably not a part of the SPL this coming season. Because Fun Baller is going to want to have Trixtakes back.
Yeah.
So, we're expecting Dignitas to keep the same roster. I think anything different would be a complete catastrophic surprise to both of us.
Yeah. And with that, it's pretty much the case now that, unofficially speaking, all EU rosters have been announced. So there's that little snippet of a fact.
Unofficially being the key word there.
Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to the EU side, obviously, as a European myself.
You're going to get to watch more of it than I am. I'm going to be working those nights. I'll be able to watch the NA stuff, though.
Well, EU's going to be on Thursday and Tuesday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday and Thursday.
So yeah, this is going to be
1 o'clock my time, which I'll be leaving for work at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be watching that stuff then at 8 or 7 o'clock my time. Looking forward to it. But yeah. Anything else you want to discuss for today? This is a short episode so far.
That wraps it up. I mean, it's not a whole lot else we can talk about unless we go to Twitter right now, and an NA team has announced their roster, which now that I've said something, I'm checking Twitter.
Yeah. I don't see anything.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it either.
But
The minor league qualifiers are going on for Europe right now.
Yeah, and in CSGO, FaZe Clan, the #1 ranked team, has just lost to Na'Vi.
That's cool.
So there's that fact. Simple is officially the best player in the world right now. Basically.
I don't know who that is.
Well, I just told you what he is. The best player in the world. But yeah. I think that's all we have to say this week. All that is Smite related anyway. So yeah. That was it from the Divinity podcast. I didn't mess that up, which I'm very proud of.
Oh.
What?
E-United just said happy birthday to Panda Cat. So apparently it's Panda Cat's birthday. So
okay, happy birthday to Panda Cat. Yeah. Anyway, if you have any comments about what we talked about this week, leave us those in the comment section, because that's where you leave comments usually. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a like as well while you're down there. And if you want to be notified when new episodes come out, you can follow us on SoundCloud. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Twitter, where we are always sending out notifications when new stuff from us comes out. And just in general, thank you all for watching. Thank you, Sabo, for being here with me today to do this short episode of the podcast. And with all that said, good night. Good smite.